Hey, welcome back to We Watch a Movie. I'm Mike, he's Jay, he's Cody.
You got that fucked up!
We watched a movie. Yeah. We watched a movie. We watched it. We watched a movie. Yeah.
We're doing a Halloween H20 today, the 7th one, 20 years later. Halloween H20.
It was 20 years later.
It's about water. It was in 1998. And it's got Jamie Lee Curtis back. She's back.
In black.
Yeah, and it's got Josh Hartnett in his first movie ever. And Adam Arkin, who's the poor man's George Clooney. It's got
He does look like George Clooney.
LL Cool J, who I actually liked his character in this. I usually hate LL Cool J and stuff, but he was good in this. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's in this for a minute.
Yeah.
He's like, I already got suspended a couple times for being a little too crazy with the stick.
So 20 years have gone by. Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laurie Strode, has gone into a witness protection program, and now she is the headmistress of an elite private school. Well, Michael Myers decides, well, you know what? You don't fucking get away from me. I'm going to come after you now because I already killed Jamie.
I'm coming to get you.
I'm coming to get you. And he's going to drink a bunch of water while he does it.
But there was 4 different masks that was used in this movie that for some reason really aggravates the shit out of me. Yeah, well, the first mask that they used was, it was the very first one that they filmed with. They filmed the majority of the film with it, and it looked like a fucking alien. It was terrible.
Its eyes were too big.
Too big, and it had no shape to the face. It was just like a I don't know, it was like an alien.
A blanket.
Yeah, so when they did the dailies, they said, this is terrible, we've got to go back and do something. So they actually took the mask from the 6th film, and they kind of resculpted it and made it their own little twist, and that's the mask that you see in the beginning of the film. That was the best mask. The mask in the middle part of the film where he's chasing Josh Hartnett and he drops his keys and he goes after him, that mask is a different one completely, and I don't even know why
that mask is stupid.
I don't know how and why it's so fucking hard to get the mask right.
Yeah, what they can do in film today, you can't get a mask right.
Yeah, that's my thing. As I know, a lot of people are probably like, it's a fucking mask. Who gives a shit? It's just a mask. But it's like that's the character. That's the same thing. That would be like if they gave Freddy Krueger instead of his classic glove, they gave him a fucking like butter knife.
This film I thought was like a watered down version of Michael Myers. I really enjoyed the film. I thought it was a good movie, but it was also kid-friendly.
This is right in the Scream, like the teenage thing, so I think that's why it felt that way. They kind of had
they even had a clip of them playing Scream in the dorm room.
Yeah, they even took out some of the original music from it and fired the guy or whatever they did with him, and they added music from Scream 2 into the movie.
That's what this was. It was like an updated version of Michael Myers. The movie was. It was for, like we were talking about, for a younger audience.
I'm glad you mentioned the music, because one thing I fucking despised about this is the fucking music. The chase scenes where he was chasing down the street, that sounded like a 1950s Attack of the Killer Ants. It was like, and he was like, well, it was just like,
the guy that played Michael Myers.
Oh, is that who
I
it was?
could not stand the way this guy walked. He was absolutely terrible.
Yeah, and there's another scene in the movie that just I can't stand. It's the scene where Laurie's walking down the thing and he pops off the pipe. He drops down behind her.
Like Batman.
Because I was watching it and I actually paused and I looked at it and the ceiling's only like this high off of that pipe.
How are you not going to notice that?
That made me think about Michael Myers crawled up there. He's like, oh, I'm going to get her good. And he crawled up there and was like hanging onto the pipe like this for like how long before she came. Picturing Michael Myers doing that makes that scene really dumb.
Then again, he is supernatural.
The bottom line is Michael Myers completely lost his balls. There is no balls in this film
he
at all.
He got kicked in him and he didn't feel it.
Right, but there's no balls in this film. He gets his ass kicked. I mean, he lets a fucking 17-year-old boy punch him in the face and knock him down and then hit him with a fucking rock.
I think they also showed that Michael Myers is the luckiest serial killer of all time. He gets a car and then he breaks down. He obviously can't change a tire. That's cool. So he's just going to sit out there and wait at an abandoned old outhouse and wait for somebody. And this woman drives by, luckily, and he can steal her car.
All the bad stuff that we're saying about this movie, I actually really enjoyed this movie. I like it's kind of like, even though it was kind of like updated or whatever, it kind of felt like the 90s version of Michael Myers. So I was cool with that, and there's scenes in it that I love. My favorite scene in the entire movie was when Laurie decides not to go with her son or whatever. She comes back, she breaks into the thing, gets the axe, and she's standing out at the school like screaming Michael. Like she's had enough, she's finally going to like face off, and they finally face off. I thought that was really cool, and I liked how they did that.
She looked like Jodie Foster.
I thought there was not enough suspense in this movie at all. There was not enough death scenes in this movie at all.
There's not a death scene until like past the halfway point of the movie.
It's basically Michael Myers just showing up behind the window and looking at you and then disappearing.
I think this movie ultimately, I think in a lot of ways it failed to live up to what everybody thought it was going to be. I mean, they brought Jamie Lee Curtis back. It was supposed to be her wrap up. She was done with it forever. They knew they were going to sell tickets because she was in it. But I just think
I liked the story.
There was no delivery on anything though. Like you're talking about the death scenes, there was no build up to it. There was nothing like, there was no tension in it. There was no atmosphere in it. You didn't feel scared. You just felt like, cool, Michael. Well, I can't wait till Michael Myers is back on screen.
Yeah, it's just like it's a viscerally pleasing.
Yeah,
you know,
but overall, I mean, it was still fun. I mean, that's all I can say. I can say it was a fun entry. I mean, and there were the past entries. There were a lot of turds that happened.
Yeah.
In the other.
At least it was shot well, and it wasn't like hokey.
It wasn't a cheap made film.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way. I mean,
Wait, is it recording still? Because that thing's flashing.
And I will say, I love like Michael Myers facing off against Laurie. I love all that stuff. Josh Hartnett, the acting I didn't think was bad in this.
No,
I didn't. It was 90s horror movie fare, but the acting was pretty good in it. But the ending where Laurie chops his head off, and like that's supposed to be the ending or whatever, and they went back and fucked with that and ate. But I thought that was badass. I loved it. I love that, like, because every time I ever watch a Michael Myers movie, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, decapitated. That's the only way to make sure he's
I liked it, but at the same time, I didn't like the last shot of her just standing there holding the fucking axe like she was all badass and like, and then he's like, you could have heard her say, "I am woman, hear me roar." And
yeah,
then
but she's
like
Jamie Lee
that.
Curtis.
But then I just didn't like it. I don't know. I just thought that was a way for Michael Myers had been stupid throughout the whole movie. Like I just felt like he was it was just bad the way he shot him, and then they just end him like that. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Well, but no, I'm gonna give this movie 7.0.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7.0 as well. It's got strong. There's strong stuff that happens in it, but it's just not atmospheric enough. It's just not got enough oomph for me. But overall, the acting's good. It's got a decent little story. It wraps up Jamie Lee Curtis's story as Laurie Strode. So I'll give it that.
Yeah.
Has a decent storyline to it. I do enjoy the storyline, and it does feel fall-y. It has that Halloween feel to it. I didn't like the fact that Michael Myers had 0 balls in this film, and it's just a watered-down version of Michael Myers. Now, the one part that I did really enjoy was the part where he was chasing Laurie, and he starts flipping the tables up.
That was cool.
That scene was actually, they were going to use that in the 4th film. That was an awesome scene. That was like the best scene in the movie, I thought. But I'm going to give it a 6.0. Just because I'm all about realism, and this movie didn't feel realistic at all.
I think this was just a love letter to the original fans of Halloween, like you mentioned, and then they were laughing.
I think you probably couldn't have said it any better. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I love the face-off between him and Laurie.
Yeah, it was all.
I like that a lot. But
this is more or less an unfinished business type of film. That's all it is.
Yeah. So all right, guys. Question of the day is, since we talked about the mask probably in this one more than we will any of them, what is your favorite Michael Myers mask? What's your least favorite Michael Myers mask? My least favorite is the 4th movie. My favorite is the original.
My favorite is probably the original one.
Yeah.
My least favorite, oh dude, I'm gonna have to go with the 5th one. I mean, he looked like he was receding.
My number one
is terrible.
My number one's Halloween original. 5th one is the shittiest one of all time.
All right, guys. I'm Mike. He's Jay. He's Cody. We'll see you next time with our Halloween Resurrection Busta Rhymes.
See, yeah, LL Cool J was the precursor to that shit.
We watched a movie.